I didn't open the envelope immediately. I set it on the counter, noticed the curve of the paper, the handwriting, careful, not rushed, like they had rehearsed kindness on a blank page. My hands trembled a little, though I wasn't sure if it was from the memory or from holding something fragile. I remembered 12 years old, standing under a flickering gas station light, the wind biting my jacket too thin, my parents' car disappearing into the night. Their words were sharp in my ears. Man up. Find your own ride home. No hesitation. No plan. Just a rearview mirror and a trail of exhaust. I had curled behind a dumpster and tried to make myself small, warm, invisible. The hum of trucks on the highway became my lullaby. That night I discovered my first lesson in being alone. I never spoke to them again after that. Not because I hated them, I didn't, but because the distance became my only protection. I learned early that boundaries weren't requested, they were created. Life was calmer that way, predictable. I memorized the rules of avoidance and emotional triage, small habits that kept me sane. Now, 30 years old, I stared at the wedding invite. My brother's name was printed in a bold, cheerful font. Inside, a folded note from my parents waited. It began with the usual preamble, the careful phrasing of acknowledgement. Yes. We know we failed you. We can't change the past, but we hope you'll be there for Alex's wedding. It would mean a lot to us, Doss. The words were meant to tug, but they landed differently. They weren't apologies exactly, not full ones. They were invitations stitched with expectation, a subtle pressure I hadn't felt in decades. My heart reacted first, a slight hitch in the chest, then my mind cataloged everything, coldly, analytically. I made coffee and sat at the kitchen table, staring at the note as if it were a puzzle with missing pieces. Could I forgive? Could I even attend? My stomach turned thinking of that night. The dumpster, the wind, the sound of my own teeth chattering while cars passed by, oblivious. I thought about my own life now. I had a home, a partner who didn't leave me stranded, a rhythm of responsibility and safety. Attending might feel like reconciliation. It might feel like intrusion. I realized, slowly, that the choice itself was my power. My parents hadn't given me that night. They hadn't given me safety. They hadn't given me consideration. But they hadn't taken away the adult who could decide for herself. I drafted a reply, then deleted it. Drafted again, deleted. Every sentence felt like testing a boundary I wasn't sure they respected anymore. Eventually, I reached out to the wedding planner, not my parents, not my brother, to clarify details. Would my presence be required? Was there a limit to participation? The planner, neutral, professional, confirmed deadlines, logistics, and attendance rules. My decision had a real, visible consequence. It wasn't abstract, it mattered. I could choose, and that choice would be formally recognized. I held the envelope again. The weight of memory pressed against me. But this time it didn't push me down. It reminded me of who I had become, the adult who survived the cold, the lonely night behind the dumpster, the child who had learned to navigate absence. I wasn't bitter. I was alert. I wasn't hopeful. I was careful. I decided. I would attend, but on my own terms. I would not be drawn into the old scripts of guilt and shame. I would not sit quietly while they tested limits I had long since defined. I would be there, but not as the child they abandoned. I would be there as the adult who owned her boundaries, who kept her dignity intact. I drafted the RSVP, succinct and calm. I will attend Alex's wedding. I look forward to celebrating with him. No extra words, no apologies, no concessions, just a statement of fact, carried in a hand that had held itself together for years. The invitation wasn't transformed into joy. It wasn't redemption, but it carried a different weight now, the authority of adulthood, the tangible line between past and present. I could decide, and that decision held power. Quiet, undeniable, unarguable. That night I lay in bed, staring at the ceiling, thinking of 12-year-old me behind that dumpster. I imagined her trembling, then imagined me, 30 years later, closing a door on her fear. They hadn't changed. I hadn't expected them to. But I had changed. For the first time in decades, I felt the neat clarity of choice, not reconciliation, not triumph, not satisfaction, just control, just dignity, just the knowledge that I could go forward fully myself, without undoing the past or surrendering to it. And that, in its own way, was enough.